Oh, hello there guys, welcome back to a brand new video, and in today's video we are going to be building the beast from 20,000 Fathoms. I'll see you after this. Okay guys, so welcome back to a brand new build, and as you can see here we have a resin kit of the Beast of 1,000 Fathoms. If you don't know what that is, it's a classic movie, and the monster was clear animation, animated by the late and great Mr. Harryhausen. And if you're a fan of this channel, or you follow my work, then you know that we are a fan of Mr. Hausen's work here. So this is a private commission, all resin, and I think it's a pretty rare resin kit now. So the parts include, we've got the main base, and then we have the lighthouse, and then the lighthouse just sits there, or should be nestled right there. Then we have the beast itself. So I believe this has already been partially assembled, and then the only thing else I could find in the kit is this ladder. And if memory serves me correct, I think it goes above the roof there, but I might be wrong about that. I need to check the references to the movies. But once situated, the beast should be here. And then this is the scene in the movie where he comes out of the water and then basically takes out his anger on this lighthouse, and then basically just demolishes it and destroys it. So yeah, so it's quite a bit of work to this. There's quite a bit of clean up, but once it's done, I can see this being a really awesome custom. So the client has asked me to paint it black and white to obviously fit in more with the movie, and yeah, I'm happy that he chose that, because I do like a nice black and white challenge, so to speak. So quite a lot of seam lines to fill in here on the kit. There's that there. There's a missing spike on the tail there. There's some missing here, but I don't know if they're missing in the film. That might just be a bad seam line that I need to sand down. So I might have to add some more little spikes, I don't know yet. And then obviously we've got holes in the jaw and under the jaw and around the side of the jaw, and then obviously we have this neck seam to glue as well. So all in all, it's a decent start. I can definitely add the extra parts, so yeah, let's get cracking. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go Operation Cleanup. Okay, so we need to go ahead and make some kind of wooden base. Now luckily I already had this in my private stash, and I was going to keep this for myself for a future build, but I think this is perfect. So yeah, why not use this one? So there's a little bit of fabric here where somebody glued something once, so that's going to have to get sanded off, and this is going to have to be nicely smooth. Okay, so after a little bit of fiddling around, I think this is probably going to work the best. So as you can see there, that is a nice lovely base for this. So all this area down here, I can make this into like a bit of it's like the sea waves. So yeah, I think this is going to work really well. Now as you can see here, we have a little bit of overlap in here. That's no big deal. But the main overlap is back here. So if I just move this bad boy, as you can see here, there's quite a chunk missing here. So I'll just get a pencil. Okay, first things first, let's go ahead and sand off all that fabric.
Soon after.
Okay, let's get sawing.
2,000 years later.
Okay guys, I'm not gonna lie, that took me forever. So yeah, I need to get a new hacksaw blade. So while talking about blades, for the next stage I'm going to go in with a sharp scalpel and I'm going to add some score marks to the bottom of the base, just so when we go ahead and glue certain parts it has something to stick to, so it makes a much better form of adhesion. So for the next part I'm just going to go in with just a normal everyday pencil and I'm just going to lightly trace around the outside of the base, and then that gives us a general area of where to add the PVA glue. So no point leaving out that little off-cut bit, let's go ahead and glue that as well. Okay, let's go ahead and leave that overnight to fully dry. So while that's drying, let's crack on with the beast. Okay, so this gap here is quite wide, so I'm going to have to take my time to make sure that I get enough Aves epoxy crammed all the way down in there. So at this point I'm just adding tiny little rolled up balls of Aves epoxy, just squishing it into where I've already applied it, and then that goes ahead and mimics the scales to the beast, so it just blends more naturally. Okay, once that's hardened I can smooth it down a little bit and I can glue it in place. So after many hours of sculpting away and recreating scale textures, we finally have a finished one all over piece. So let's go ahead into the spray booth and give this a couple of coats of a nice grey prime.
Get the idea.
Okay, so after a good at least 2 coats of a grey prime, as you can see there, he's looking more whole, and yeah, it's starting to take shape. So for the next stage I'm going to go in with a bit of a black wash, and we're going to go ahead and get into all the nooks and crannies, and then we're going to go ahead and mop up the excess with a bit of kitchen towel. Okay, so at first glance that's worked really well. Okay, so for the next part I'm going to go in with some of this stuff, which is a white grey primer from Vallejo, and I'm just going to go in with a makeup thick stipple brush, and we're going to go ahead and dry brush a lighter tone on this bad boy. Okay, let's go ahead and leave that to fully dry.
Alright.
And now I'm going to go in with a little bit of Aves epoxy, and I'm going to go ahead and re-sculpt some of the missing details. So, for the next part we need to go ahead and recreate more rocks like this, but instead of going in with loads of Aves epoxy, for the next stage I'm going to go in with some wood chip repair, and all these little extra little bits go ahead once dry and mimic rocks. Okay guys, so while that goes ahead and dries, for the next stage I'm going to go back in with some of that wood chip repair, because I really like the way that it just seems to look like or mimic waves hitting the rocks. So I think that this will work better as water than it would be for, well, rocks.
No way!
Okay, so now that that's nicely dried, for the next stage we're going to go out into the spray booth and we're going to hit this with at least 2 to maybe 3 coats of a nice grey prime. So now that that base is drying, for the next stage I want to go ahead and try to recreate the iconic logo. to the movie of the beast from 20,000 Fathoms. And in order to do that, I brought this picture up from an old movie poster that I found online, and then I put it into a software called Clip Studio Paint or Clip Studio Art. And yeah, I basically traced over the actual logo from the movie poster, and then just basically made it black. And then I went over into another software which is called Matter Control, where I can apply a filter, I suppose, where it'll mask out the black lettering and make it 3D. So with that, I can go ahead and recreate a simple nameplate. So now that we have our STL file, let's go ahead and print it out.
3 hours later.
Yep, I think that's going to work lovely. Okay, so now that we've got this back, we need to go ahead and add it in place here. So in order to do that, I'm just going to go in with some Das air drying modelling clay. I'm going to put some on the back, squeeze it in place, and then trim off the sides. And then once left to dry, that should be a really good connection to then go ahead and glue it onto the base.
The next day.
So for the next part, I've got a little bit of black left over from a different project. I don't want it to go to waste, so I'm just going to quickly go around and try and paint a little bit of a black undercoat around the base. Okay guys, I just wanted to say if you're enjoying this video, please slap that like button, and if you want to be a legend, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss out on future builds. Okay, now that you're legends, let's get back to the video. So once that black paint had time to dry, for the next stage we're going to be into the spray booth, and I'm going to go ahead and hit it with a few different darker tones, just so we can go ahead and add a little bit of shadowing on some of the sides of the rocks, etc. Just goes a long way to add a bit more definition to the base. So once the darker tones were nice and dry, I then went in with a pure white, and then I added some highlights to the top of the rocks.
I like it a lot.
So while the airbrush is still out, I thought I'd go ahead and add the same darker tones and lighter tones to the beast itself. So now that we've lightened up the white of the sea or the waves, for the next stage we need to go ahead and we need to darken down the rocks. So we need to show contrast between one and the other so we know what we're looking at. So at the moment it's looking very similar. So yes, I'm just going to go in with the black wash again, and I'm just going to go over the rock areas, and hopefully that darkens it down. And for the next part, I'm just going to go in with just some normal everyday black acrylic, and we're going to go ahead and paint the base. Okay, so for the next part now we need to go ahead and crack on with the lighthouse. Now I've already gone ahead and done a little bit of prepping, just sanding some of the seam lines, etc. Now the main problem is this little detailed area up here. So as you can see here, we've got like a nice pattern going all the way around, but then it gets to a little bit of a messy area here, but this part here is like completely just gone, and it doesn't really line up very well. Like this line here doesn't line up with that line there, so this part is going to be a bit of a problem when it comes to painting. But yeah, for now I'm going to focus on this small little part here. So as you can see here, there's little parts where air bubbles didn't make the resin connect into the corners, and there's quite a bit missing here. And then we have this hole here, which is where like a little chimney's supposed to go. But in the actual scene in the movie, it's really dark and you can't really see it. So I saved a couple of stills, put it into Photoshop, lightened it up. And then I realised two things. One, this part here is actually got a door here in the middle, which is obviously not being sculpted here. And the chimney is actually supposed to be here, not here. So yeah, so we're going to have to go ahead and try and fix this, all this part here. So in order to do that, I'm just going to go in with some regular Aves epoxy.
Hours later.
Okay, let's go ahead and make ourselves a brand new chimney. So the chimney is just a matchstick cut to shape with a little bit of vinyl super glued to the top of it. And once super glued in place, I think that will work fantastic. Yep, I think that'll do nicely. Okay guys, so for the next part now, there's supposed to be a little barrier going around this part here. Now this was included in the kit. Now when I first got it, I thought, I don't remember there being a ladder somewhere on the lighthouse. And then yeah, then it wasn't until a bit later that it dawned on me that this is actually supposed to be the railing. So it looks like this has been cast in resin, and resin isn't known for wanting to bend very far before it breaks. So this might work brilliantly or it might work horribly. So the only way to find out is to open this up and try to glue it to this. Right, so before I go ahead and start adding this, as you can see, there's quite a lot of like skin or imperfections around the sides of this. So I'm going to have to go and try and clean these up with a nice flat end final.
One pair of pants later.
Okay guys, so about 30 seconds into trying to clean this up, this broke. So yeah, I really can't see this working.
Nope.
And yeah, actually comparing it to some of the stills that I have from the film, this actually seems like it's too big anyway. It just feels like it's a bit too big. So yeah, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take this, do some measurements, and see if I can try and make or 3D print something that is already curved that I can just glue into place. So yeah, see you in a bit.
One debt to society later.
Okay, so here we are, freshly back from the printer, and I went ahead and printed 2 copies just in case one broke or, you know, warped or whatever. So yeah, let's go ahead and give this a quick test. Okay, that looks like it's gonna work beautifully. Okay, so this one I'll just put to one side for now, just to keep it safe. And for this part, let's go ahead and let's get gluing. Okay, I think that's probably about as best as we're going to get. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that fully dry.
15 minutes later.
Okay, so now that that is nicely glued in place, we're going to go ahead and hit this with a couple of coats of a nice grey prime.
Okay guys, so now that we've got this back from the spray booth, for the next stage I'm going to go in with a base coat of German grey from Model Colour. Okay, so now that that's dried, for the next stage I'm going to go in with some medium sea grey from Model Colour. And now I'm going to go in with a little bit of off-white from Game Colour. And for the next part I'm going to go in with a little bit of black watercolour, and I'm going to get into some of the little nooks and crannies and just add a little bit of shadage. And for the next part I'm going to go in with a off-white from Game Colour and a stipple brush. Okay guys, so I'm purposely adding more to the back part of the lighthouse, because I want the light to be shining on the creature's face. So light's going to be more emanating from this part, but it's going to be darker back here. So that's the theory anyway. And now I'm going to go in with a tiny bit of German grey from Model Colour.
And now I'm going to go in with a dead white from Game Colour. Okay, so now that we've added our light source and our dark shaded areas, for the next stage I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to coat this part with some clear UV resin and then leave it to cure in the sun, and then once hardened that'll make this look more transparent, like it's light emanating out of glass, or at least that's the theory. Okay, let's go ahead and leave that to cure.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Okay, so that is cooked in the sun for a couple of hours, and I really love the effect that makes it look like it's actually glass. So yeah, worked out beautifully. And then another thing is really cool is, remember when we first started working on this and there was all those little defects? Well, that is now smoothed all that out, so we don't see those defects. Now the next stage is going to be a bit tricky because we need to go ahead and create the little mesh zigzag pattern that is on the inside there. So yeah, it as we said before, it didn't line up perfectly here, so I'm gonna have to take a little bit of artistic license there. Okay, so my first idea is I might try and go in with a black Sharpie or something like that. So, not gonna lie guys, that took me a long time to get this right. So, because the front facing light of the lighthouse would be extremely bright, that would dim the sight of being able to see the cage on the inside. So we need to go ahead and recreate that by going to the spray booth and hitting it with some bright white. So for the next part I'm going to go ahead and drill 2 channel holes with my trusty drill, and we're going to go ahead and add some metal for pinning. And then after a few measurements I then went ahead and drilled 2 more channel holes, but this time in the model base. Same again, this is just so the pins have somewhere to slot into, so it's going to be a lot easier to ship this when I have to send it off.
Yeah, boy!
So once I knew both sides of the channel holes would nicely line up, I then went in and just regulated normal super glue, and then just super glued the 2 metal pins in place. Okay, so even though that is on there nice and secure now, so as you can see there, you got 2 pegs, 2 holes, and it fits nicely in place. Unfortunately we do still have like a bit of a seam gap here which is quite visible, so we need to go ahead and recreate some more rocks.
What?
Okay, so same as before, I'm going to go in and recreate these rocks with just good old-fashioned wood chip repair. Okay, let's go ahead and leave that a couple of hours to fully dry.
6 hours later.
Okay, that should be nicely dried, so let's go ahead and see if we can remove this. Okay, so for the next part we're going to go in with some little bits of metal, and we're going to go ahead and add a peg system so this literal beast can stand up. Okay, not a bad start. Okay, so now that we know where the lighthouse is going to be situated, once this is fully dried, for the next stage we need to go ahead and drill some pinholes for the beast. Okay guys, so even though it is a really nice fit, same again, there's a gap on underneath the feet, so I need to go ahead and recreate rocks here as well.
I'll be back.
So after 2 blobs of Aves epoxy squished in place and then smoothed out, I then went ahead and built up a little bit of bulk around it with, yes you guessed it, some good old fashioned wood chip repair.
Really?
So once all that had fully dried, I then went in with a base coat of black, and then I lightened the shades up from dark grey to light grey, with ending with like a dry brush of like an off-white, and then that is all nicely all blended together. And once that had dried, the only thing that's left to do on this now is to go ahead and mix some 2-part resin epoxy, and then we'll go ahead and glue the nameplate in place, and then I'll go ahead and call this one done. Okay guys, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been quite a bit of work, a little bit tricky in parts, but all's well that ends well, and I do love the finished display, or the finished result. So if you've enjoyed this video, please slap that like button, be a legend, and share on Facebook and Next, because it helps new people find the YouTube channel, which I'm always appreciative. Thank you for any help. If you have any comments, comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future builds. And if you want to be a legendary viewer, please take 5 minutes to check out my Patreon page, where with your help and support, we can do these videos full time rather than part time, which means a lot more content for you guys. So, all that being said, thank you for watching. I'm Francis Gray, and this has been the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. I'll see you in the next build.